She tried to turn my husband against me. It backfired. Welcome, this is Voice of Deborah and I share true life stories. You're a terrible wife, and you know it. Those words came from my best friend's mouth as she stood in my living room. Her finger pointed at my chest like a weapon. My husband Daniel sat on the couch between us, his face buried in his hands. Vanessa, that's not fair, I started. Fair? You want to talk about fair, Claire? You've been neglecting Daniel for months, working late every night, forgetting anniversaries, barely cooking anymore. She turned to him, her voice softening. I've been telling you, Daniel. She doesn't appreciate you. She doesn't deserve you. I stared at my best friend of 12 years, the woman who'd been my maid of honor, who'd held my hand through my father's funeral, and I didn't recognize her. But what Daniel said next made my heart stop completely. Maybe she's right, Claire. The room tilted. I grabbed the back of the armchair to steady myself. What? Daniel finally looked up at me, and his eyes were cold, distant, like he was looking at a stranger. Vanessa's just being honest. Someone needs to be. You're never home. When was the last time we had a real conversation? Daniel, I've been working on the Henderson account. You know how important. There's always an account, Vanessa interrupted, moving closer to Daniel. She placed her hand on his shoulder. I watched his body relax under her touch. There's always an excuse. But Daniel's here, lonely, feeling abandoned. And you don't even notice. This wasn't real. This couldn't be happening. Vanessa had been coming over more frequently in the past 2 months, ever since her own marriage fell apart. She'd said she needed support. She'd said our home felt safe. I'd invited her in. I'd given her a key. Daniel, can we talk? Alone? Asked, my voice shaking. He glanced at Vanessa before answering. That glance told me everything. Vanessa's staying for dinner. She made lasagna. Your favorite, actually. He stood up, brushing past me. I'm going to set the table. I watched him walk away, leaving me standing there with the woman who was systematically dismantling my marriage. Vanessa smiled at me. It didn't reach her eyes. You look tired, Claire. Why don't you go rest? I'll handle dinner. She followed Daniel into the kitchen, and I heard them laughing about something. That's when I knew I was in a fight for my life. But I had no idea how deadly this fight would actually become. The next morning, I woke up to an empty bed. Daniel had already left for work, without saying goodbye. His coffee cup sat in the sink, and next to it was another cup, Vanessa's favorite mug. She'd stayed the night. I found her in our guest room, still asleep, her dark hair spread across my pillows. My hands clenched into fists. I wanted to wake her up and demand answers. But something stopped me. On her nightstand sat her phone, screen still glowing. She'd fallen asleep while texting. I knew I shouldn't look. I knew it was wrong. But my marriage was crumbling and I needed to understand why. Picked up her phone. The messages were to an unsaved number. Vanessa. Phase 2 is working perfectly. He barely looks at her anymore. No good. Beat it up. We're running out of time. Vanessa. The life insurance policy renews next month. If we wait until after, the payout doubles. $750,000. My vision blurred. I read it again. And again. Life insurance. My life insurance. I backed out of the room silently, my heart hammering so hard I thought it would burst through my chest. In my bedroom, I locked the door and pulled out my phone with trembling fingers. I logged into our insurance portal. There was a life insurance policy on me that I'd never signed up for. $750,000, with Daniel as the beneficiary. The policy had been opened 4 months ago, right when Vanessa started spending more time at our house. I scrolled through the details, my stomach churning. The signature on the digital form looked like mine, but I'd never seen this document before. Someone had forged my signature. A knock on the bedroom door made me jump. Claire. You okay in there? Vanessa's voice was light, friendly. The voice of someone who wasn't plotting my murder. Fine. Just getting ready for work. I called back, shoving my phone into my pocket. I made breakfast. Come eat before it gets cold. I stared at the locked door, my mind racing. If I confronted her now, what would she do? If I went to the police with just a text message, would they even believe me? And Daniel, was he part of this? The thought made bile rise in my throat. My husband of 8 years, my college sweetheart, the man who'd proposed on a beach at sunset. Could he really want me dead? I needed proof. Real proof. And I needed to stay alive long enough to get it. I unlocked the door and walked downstairs, forcing a smile. Vanessa stood at the stove, flipping pancakes, looking every bit like she belonged in my kitchen. There you are. I was worried you'd left without eating. You really need to take better care of yourself. The concern in her voice would have sounded genuine if I didn't know the truth. Thanks, Vanessa. This looks amazing. I sat down, watching her every move. She placed a plate in front of me. 3 perfect pancakes, syrup, butter, fresh strawberries. Eat up. I made them extra special today. She smiled that same hollow smile. I looked down at the pancakes, then at my coffee, then at her. Actually, I'm running late. I'll grab something at the office. I stood grabbing my keys. But I made these just for you. I really have to go. Thanks, anyway. I was out the door before she could protest. In my car, I sat gripping the steering wheel, my whole body shaking. Had she tried to poison me? Was I being paranoid? But that text message, it was real. The life insurance policy was real. My phone rang. Daniel. Hey, Vanessa said you rushed out without breakfast. Everything okay? So they were already coordinating. Checking if their plan had worked. Everything's fine. Big meeting today. I'll be home late. Again. His voice held an edge of irritation. Claire, this is exactly what Vanessa was talking about. You're always. I have to go, Daniel. Hung up. For the first time in 8 years, I'd hung up on my husband. And for the first time in my life, I was truly afraid. But what I discovered at my office would reveal a conspiracy far bigger than I imagined. I sat in my car in the office parking lot, trying to calm my racing heart. I needed help. I needed someone I could trust. I called my brother, Ethan. He answered on the first ring. Claire. What's wrong? You sound. Ethan, I need you to listen carefully. Don't react, just listen. I told him everything. Text. The insurance policy. The way Vanessa had inserted herself into my marriage. Daniel's coldness. Silence on the other end. Ethan. I'm here. I'm just Jesus, Claire. Have you gone to the police? With what? A text message I saw by snooping. They'll think I'm a paranoid wife having a breakdown. Then we get more evidence. Let me make some calls. I have a friend who's a private investigator. In the meantime, don't eat or drink anything Vanessa gives you. Don't be alone with her. And Claire. His voice dropped. Be careful around Daniel too. Until we know for sure if he's involved. That thought sat like a stone in my chest. Okay. I'll call you back within the hour. Stay in public places. I ended the call and sat there trying to process everything. My best friend wanted me dead. My husband might be helping her. And I had no idea who else was involved. My phone buzzed. An email from HR. Subject. Immediate action required. I opened it, confused. Claire, we need to discuss the complaint filed against you by a client. Please report to HR immediately. This is regarding breach of confidentiality and potential fraud. Fraud. I hadn't done anything wrong. My fingers flew across my phone, opening my work email. There in my sent folder were emails I'd never written. Emails to clients sharing confidential company information. Emails promising services at impossible prices. Emails that would get me fired and possibly sued. All sent 2 nights ago at 2 a.m. When I'd been asleep. Vanessa had access to my house. To my laptop. To everything. She wasn't just trying to kill me. She was destroying my entire life first. I stormed into the office building, my fear transforming into rage. In the HR office, my supervisor Linda sat with a grim expression. Claire, we need to talk about these emails. I didn't send them. Someone hacked my account. Linda pulled out printed copies. They came from your IP address. From your computer. Someone accessed my computer without my permission. Can prove it. Give me 24 hours to. I'm sorry, Claire. But until we complete our investigation, you're suspended without pay. We'll need your building access card and laptop. The room spun. I handed over my card mechanically, my mind elsewhere. Without my job, I had no income. Without income, how would I afford a lawyer? How would I prove anything? This was her plan all along. Isolate me. Destroy my credibility. Make me look unstable. Then the accident happens. The grieving husband collects the insurance money. He splits it with Vanessa. They probably ride off into the sunset together. I walked out of that building feeling like a ghost. Everything I'd built was crumbling. My phone rang. Ethan. I talked to my investigator friend, David. He can meet you in an hour at. He paused. Claire, are you okay? You sound strange. I just lost my job. What? How? I explained about the emails. This is escalating fast, Ethan said, his voice tight with worry. She's not just planning anymore. She's actively destroying you. Claire, I think you need to get out of that house. Today. Come stay with me and Sarah. If I run, I look guilty. And I lose any chance of proving what she's doing. If you stay, you might lose your life. He was right. But something stubborn in me refused to run. This was my home. My marriage. My life. I wasn't going to let Vanessa take it without a fight. I'll be careful. Set up the meeting with David. I'll be there. I met the private investigator at a coffee shop across town. David Chen was in his 50s, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. Your brother filled me in, he said, sliding a folder across the table. I did some preliminary digging on Vanessa Wright. Claire, your friend doesn't exist. What? The woman living in your house has been using that identity for 6 years. Before that. He opened the folder, revealing a different photo. Same face, different name. She was Patricia Monroe. Before that, Jessica Santos. She's a con artist who targets married couples. Usually, she seduces the husband, convinces him to divorce, and takes half his assets in the settlement as the new wife. I stared at the photos. 3 different names. 3 different lives. Same predatory smile. But with you and Daniel, she changed her method. Why not just seduce him? Because Daniel comes from money, David said. His family has a trust fund worth about $3 million. He can't access it while married to you. His parents made sure of that. They never liked you, did they? My throat tightened. No. They thought I was beneath him. Vanessa knows this. She also knows Daniel won't divorce you. He's Catholic, and divorce would mean losing his inheritance permanently. So she found another solution. Kill me. Make it look like an accident. Daniel inherits everything, including the insurance money. Then eventually she marries him. David nodded grimly. I've seen her pattern. She's done this twice before. But those women got away with just financial losses. You're the first one she's actually tried to. Murder, I finished. We need to catch her in the act. With the police present. Otherwise, it's your word against hers. How? David leaned forward. We give her what she wants. An opportunity. But what she doesn't know is that we'll be watching. A chill ran down my spine. He was suggesting I become bait. But what happened next would prove I wasn't the only one in danger. I drove home that evening with a wire taped to my chest and a panic button in my pocket. David and his partner were parked 2 houses down. Ethan was on standby. The police had been briefed, reluctantly, and were ready to move on my signal. The plan was simple: act normal. Let Vanessa make her move. Catch everything on recording. The plan was terrifying. When I walked through the door, Vanessa was cooking again. The smell of garlic and herbs filled the house. Daniel sat at the kitchen island, laughing at something she'd said. They both looked up when I entered. The laughter died. Claire, you're home early. Vanessa's smile was strained. I thought you had a late meeting. It got cancelled. I set down my bag watching them both. What's for dinner? Chicken marsala. Your favorite. She turned back to the stove. Everything was my favorite according to Vanessa. Every meal she made was supposedly my favorite. A subtle way of showing Daniel how thoughtful she was compared to me. Daniel didn't meet my eyes. How was work? Actually, not great. I got suspended today. His head snapped up. What? Why? Someone sent emails from my account. Confidential client information. HR thinks I did it. I let the words hang there, watching Vanessa's back tense slightly. That's terrible, she said, still not turning around. Do they know who actually did it? Not yet. But they will. I emphasized the last words. IT is tracing everything. They can track every login, every keystroke, every device that accessed my accounts. I saw her hand shake slightly as she stirred the sauce. Well, I'm sure they'll figure it out, Daniel said, but his voice lacked conviction. He glanced at Vanessa. That glance confirmed everything. He knew. He was part of this. My husband was helping my best friend plot my murder. The betrayal hit me like a physical blow, but I kept my face neutral. I couldn't break. Not now. Dinner's ready, Vanessa announced brightly. She plated the food. Chicken marsala with roasted vegetables and wild rice. She set a plate in front of Daniel, then one at my usual spot. I watched as she poured wine. One glass for Daniel. One for herself. One for me. I picked up my glass, swirling the wine, studying it in the light. This looks different. New brand. I thought we'd try something special. Vanessa raised her glass. To better days ahead. Daniel raised his glass. They both looked at me expectantly. The wire under my shirt felt like it was burning my skin. The panic button in my pocket seemed to pulse. I raised my glass slowly, bringing it to my lips. And then I did something that clearly shocked them both. I switched my glass with Daniel's. Claire, what are you? Daniel started. You don't mind, do you? This one's closer. I smiled innocently and took a sip from his glass before he could stop me. The look on Vanessa's face was priceless. Pure panic quickly masked. Actually, here, take yours back. I already drank from that one, Daniel stammered, reaching for the glass. It's fine. We're married. We share everything, right? I held his eyes. For better or worse. In sickness and in health. Till death do us part. The last words landed like stones. Vanessa stood abruptly. I forgot the bread. Let me go grab it from the kitchen. I watched her go, my heart pounding. Through the wire I whispered, she's moving. Be ready. Daniel cleared his throat. Claire, we need to talk. About us. Yes, we do. I set down the wine glass. His wine glass, and folded my hands. Tell me, Daniel. When did you decide you wanted me dead? The color drained from his face. What? That's insane. I would never. The life insurance policy. $750,000. That I never signed for. How long have you been planning this with her? Claire, you're not making sense. You've been stressed, overworked. Don't gaslight me. My voice rose. I saw the texts. I know about Vanessa's past identities. I know she's done this before. And I know you're helping her. He stood up, and for the first time I saw something dangerous in his eyes. You've been snooping. Going through Vanessa's phone. Her private messages. Do you know how crazy that sounds? What sounds crazy is my husband and best friend conspiring to kill me for insurance money and a trust fund. Nobody's trying to kill you. But his voice cracked on the words. From the kitchen came a crash. Then Vanessa's voice, high and panicked. Daniel, we need to go. Now. He looked toward the kitchen, then back at me. And in that moment, I saw him make a choice. He chose her. Daniel ran toward the kitchen. I grabbed my panic button and pressed it, then followed him. What I found in the kitchen made my blood freeze. Vanessa stood at the back door, a suitcase already packed at her feet. In her hand was a gun. "I told you to drug her at breakfast," she hissed at Daniel. "Why is she still conscious? Still asking questions? She didn't eat the pancakes. She left before I could. Idiots, both of you." But she wasn't talking to Daniel. She was talking to someone on her phone, which sat on the counter with the speaker on. A woman's voice came through. Cold. Familiar. "Vanessa, if she knows everything, you need to accelerate. Make it look like a home invasion gone wrong. Shoot her now, stage the scene, and get out." I knew that voice. "Mom." Daniel's face went white. His mother's voice came through the speaker, sharp and commanding. "Daniel, stop being weak. This was always the plan. That woman has kept you from your inheritance for 8 years. 8 years of poverty because you married below your station. Now finish this." The pieces finally clicked into place. This wasn't just Vanessa. This wasn't just Daniel. This was his entire family. But the gun in Vanessa's hand was steady, pointing right at me. "I'm sorry, Claire," she said, and she actually sounded like she meant it. "You really should have just eaten the pancakes. This would have been so much easier." Her finger moved to the trigger, and then the back door exploded inward. Police swarmed through the door, weapons drawn. "Drop the gun. Hands up. Now." Vanessa spun toward them, and for a moment I thought she'd shoot. But then David Chen was there, tackling her from the side. The gun clattered across the floor. More police rushed through the front door. Daniel tried to run but was pinned within seconds. His mother's voice was still screaming through the phone speaker as an officer picked it up. "This is entrapment. My lawyers will destroy you all. Daniel, don't say anything." I stood there, shaking, as officers secured the scene. One of them, Detective Rodriguez, who'd been part of the plan, approached me carefully. "Mrs. Chen, are you all right? Did you consume anything they gave you?" "No." I switched the wine glasses. "I didn't eat anything she made." "Smart. We'll need to test everything in this kitchen." She looked at me with something like respect. "You were very brave. Very stupid, but very brave." Ethan burst through the door, Sarah right behind him. "Claire." I fell into my brother's arms and finally let myself cry. Over his shoulder, I watched them load Vanessa into a police car. She caught my eye through the window. She didn't look angry or scared. She looked impressed. That somehow made it worse. Daniel was crying, pleading with the officers. I didn't know she was serious. I thought we were it was supposed to scare Claire into giving me a divorce. That's all. I didn't think she'd actually. "Save it for your lawyer," Rodriguez said coldly. As they took him away, Daniel looked back at me. "Claire, I'm sorry. I never wanted." I turned away. I didn't want to hear it. David Chen approached, his expression grim. "We got everything on recording. The wire worked perfectly. Her confession, his mother's orders, all of it." His mother. I can't believe. Audrey Hammond. She hired Vanessa 6 months ago. We found the paper trail. Bank transfers, emails, the works. She wanted her son to have his inheritance. And you were the obstacle. When divorce wasn't an option, well, he didn't need to finish. What happens now? Now they all go to prison. Conspiracy to commit murder, attempted murder, fraud, forgery. Vanessa alone is looking at 25 years. With her prior history, probably more. Daniel will get 15 to 20 as an accomplice. And his mother. David smiled coldly. She's looking at conspiracy charges that could put her away for the rest of her life. I nodded, numb. It was over. I was safe. But my marriage was over. My best friend had tried to kill me. My mother-in-law had orchestrated the whole thing. Everything I'd thought was real had been a lie. But then something else happened that I never expected. 3 weeks later, I sat in a lawyer's office as they read Daniel's mother's will. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. Audrey Hammond had died of a stroke 2 days after being arrested. The stress, her doctors said. She'd been so focused on getting Daniel his inheritance that she'd killed herself trying to secure it. And to my daughter-in-law, Claire Hammond, whom I wronged in unspeakable ways. The lawyer's voice droned on. She'd left me a letter, confession, and shockingly, $2 million, 2/3 of the trust fund. Daniel got nothing. In her final hours, Audrey had changed her will. Some last spark of conscience, or perhaps a final punishment for her son's weakness. The letter explained everything. Claire, you were always stronger than my son. I resented you for it. You made him happy in ways money never could, and I couldn't stand it. I thought removing you would give him the life I wanted for him. Instead, I destroyed him. This money won't erase what I did, but perhaps you can build a life with it that I tried to take from you. You deserved better than my family. A.H. I folded the letter carefully. The money felt like blood money. But I'd earned it. It survived. The trial took 4 months. I testified against all of them. Vanessa, real name Patricia Delgado, got 30 years. They'd connected her to 2 other accidental deaths of wealthy spouses. Daniel got 18 years as an accomplice to attempted murder. His mother's death meant she escaped justice, but in a way, knowing what she'd done to her son before dying seemed like its own punishment. Through it all, I learned things about trust, family, and survival that I wish I hadn't needed to learn. I learned that the people closest to you can hide the darkest intentions. That charm can mask manipulation. That love can be weaponized. But I also learned that intuition is powerful. Those tiny red flags I'd ignored at first, they'd been right. The discomfort I'd felt around Vanessa's too perfect concern, the way she'd inserted herself into my marriage, the odd conversations I'd overheard. My gut had known. I just hadn't listened soon enough. I learned that trust must be earned, not given freely just because someone shares your blood or your history. Family isn't always who you're born to. Sometimes it's who you choose. Ethan, Sarah, even David the PI. They'd been my real family when it mattered. And I learned that survival sometimes means becoming bait. Taking risks. Being brave when every instinct screams to run. 6 months after the trial, I stood in my new apartment. I'd sold the house, couldn't bear to live there anymore, and opened my laptop. My business was slowly rebuilding. Clients who'd heard the full story were coming back, apologizing. My name had been cleared of all the fraud charges. The insurance policy had been voided. I was starting over. It wasn't easy. Some days I barely got out of bed. The betrayal cut deeper than any physical wound could. I'd trusted these people with my life, and they'd tried to take it. But I was alive. And Vanessa's plan hadn't just backfired. It had exploded in her face spectacularly. She tried to turn my husband against me, to isolate me, to make me look crazy and unstable. Instead, she'd revealed herself as a serial con artist and murderer. She'd destroyed Daniel's life instead of enhancing it. She'd given me the evidence I needed to bring them all down. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I hadn't looked at her phone that morning. If I'd eaten those pancakes. If I'd drunk that wine. Probably be dead. Daniel would have his money. And Vanessa would be moving on to her next victim. But I trusted my instincts. And that made all the difference. If you're watching this because something feels off in your life, in your relationships, in your home, trust that feeling. Trust your gut. Those little warning signs exist for a reason. Don't ignore them like I almost did. Sometimes the people trying to destroy you are sitting at your dinner table. Sometimes they're sleeping in your guest room. Sometimes they're the ones saying, I love you. Pay attention. Document everything. Trust your instincts. And if you found this story helpful, if it resonated with you or made you think twice about the people in your life, hit that subscribe button. Share this video with someone who might need to hear it. Because awareness can save lives. Mine was almost taken by the people I trusted most. Don't let that happen to you. The truth is always worth fighting for. Your life is always worth protecting. And sometimes the best revenge is simply surviving. Vanessa tried to turn my husband against me. Instead, she turned herself into exactly what she was, a monster. And that backfired more than she ever could have imagined. Stay safe out there. Trust carefully. And never ever ignore those red flags. They might just save your life.